Oh, first, one vocabulary word, opacity. Opacity means you can't see through it. So, for example, this has a lot of opacity. You can't see through it. This has just a little bit of opacity. You kind of can see through it. The air right now has like no opacity. You can totally see through it all the way. It's like the opposite of transparency if you think about it. Opacity means you can't see through it if it's got a lot of opacity. So, anyways, we're going to see that very soon. So, when you hear me say opacity, you know what I mean. I'm going to go in and go ahead and open up a file. Am I focused? Yes. Oh, crystal clear. I'm going to open up a new file. I'm just going to screen size. We'll learn more about that other stuff later. And I can just kind of start drawing. Now, there's a ton of brushes all up here. There's some freaky ones too, which is like really cool. But if you're just looking for a plain old brush, airbrushing is actually, I found, to be the most like just regular brush. So I'm going to go to medium hard airbrush, and then my line is just like a straight up line. I can make it thinner up here. And this size of this dot will tell you exactly how big your line is going to be. A lot of apps don't do that, but this one does, which is cool. This one controls, what's that? Opacity. So if I turn the opacity all the way up, it's going to be like a post-it note where you can't see through it at all. If I turn the opacity down, like halfway, now you can kind of see through it. Let me pick a darker brush so you can actually see what I'm talking about, and I'll make it a little bigger. So with the opacity like that, about halfway, you can kind of see where two lines overlap. Not really. Let me turn it down a little bit more. Now you can definitely see where two lines overlap, or three lines overlap. Where they overlap, it's darker. If I turn the opacity really far down, you can barely see that I'm drawing anything at all. Can you? Turn it a little bit more. A lot of times if you're drawing and you can't tell, like there's nothing happening. It might be because your opacity is all the way down. Anyways, so generally here's how, well, let's just jump right into our finger gestures. Okay, first of all, if you want to undo things, you can tap that little button there. It says the little undo button. However, the cooler way to do it is to take two fingers and touch the screen, tap, 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 and you're undoing stuff. If you want to undo a lot of things at once, you can just hold your fingers down. It'll undo everything. Well, it'll undo a lot. I'm sorry. Now, if you tap three fingers, it'll redo things. And if you hold three fingers down, it'll redo them very quickly. So it's kind of fun just to hold down two fingers, undo, 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 hold down three fingers, redo, redo, redo. If you want to just clear everything on that layer, you can take three fingers, go side to side, and just clears everything. The alternative, I guess, would be taking an eraser and making it like really big and erasing everything, but it takes a lot less time just to clear. Now, you can also, with three fingers, pull up your copy and paste menu. Three fingers down, copy, then three fingers down, paste. And you know what? This is a good time for us to go and talk about the move tool, which shows up after you paste something. So let's talk about that next. The move tool, right up here, the little triangle. You can move things, obviously. You can make things smaller. You can make things really small. But what a lot of people don't realize is that you don't actually have to touch the object to move it. I can just touch anywhere and it still moves it, which is really convenient if something's really small. It's hard to like not touch the handles. So you can also make it bigger or smaller without touching it, and you can rotate without actually touching the object you're trying to make bigger or smaller. And then there's all kinds of cool options. You can flip it, and you can just kind of play with those things for nice little rotations. I'm going to undo that. Do keep in mind free form and uniform. Those are super important. With uniform, I can make it, if I make it bigger or smaller, it kind of gets, what stays the same. It doesn't get distorted. But with free form, ooh, gross. All right, so don't do that unless you want to for some reason. It's rare that I want to use free form, but sometimes I do. Distort, sometimes I'll use with perspective. So you can actually kind of make things fit to a vanishing point just by pulling out one handle at a time. And warp's really cool. You can like just do whatever you want. Yeah, that's kind of cool. All right, but I don't like. Actually, I do kind of like that. Looks like something. I'm not sure what. But I don't like it enough, so I'm gonna delete that layer. Sorry, delete that layer, and then I'll clear this one. Cool. Now, the basic way that ProCreate works is you do something like this. You turn the opacity down and you start sketching things out. So, for example, like, ooh, turn the opacity down, I said. And then I use a thin line to kind of sketch things out. Everybody likes clowns, so I'll sketch out like a fun clown head. Something like that. Cool. And it's got, there we go. Now, then you would go onto a different layer typically, and then you would do your inking. And you can ink with black lines the way so many of us do. You can adjust the thickness. Here's where it does get a lot easier with an Apple Pencil. But regardless, you use your sketch lines to kind of do your inking. Wow, this is beautiful. Now you can fill in colors. One thing that's nice about the layers is that you can uncheck layers too. Cool. To color, you have a couple options. One, you can open up a new layer and then drag it behind this layer. Then when you color, it will show up behind your lines. Nice. Or you can actually color directly on the layer and just drag in the color. Now to see what's happening there, I'm going to slow mode a little bit. Drag the color in. I'm going to slide my finger to the left or to the right. And you can notice as I slide my finger to the right, it fills in more of those little gray squares. There we go. Or to the left less. If I do it really fast, it'll take that threshold and go all the way to 100% and just fill in everything. It's pretty rare that you want that. This can be useful though, because let's say that you almost color something in, then but there's like a little gap there. You can slide your finger to the left, and even if there's a gap, you still might be able to fill it in. Or you can always just go back in, of course, and like close the gap. But that threshold thing of filling in the colors is pretty useful. So you can just drag your colors in and so forth. Let's see. What else I need to talk about? Oh, you can also continually add layers, and let's say it's got like a little, I'm not sure, Kermit the Frog tattoo. And then if you really like that Kermit the Frog tattoo, you can merge the layers so that there's just one layer. And I think that's about it. Oh, you can also, like I said, hold your finger on the layer to rearrange it. I said you can rearrange it. I didn't tell you how. That's how. You hold it down, and then you can move it. All right. I think that's it. So stay tuned for part 2, which we dive a little bit deeper in, and then we can start our cool projects with ProCreate. All right. I'll see you soon. Bye. Good.